Thank you guys. Thank you everybody for coming out today. Today's forum was hosted by the Gardner Edgerton Chamber of Commerce. My name is Jason Camus. I'm the president of the chamber. I want to first off give a big round of applause and a thank you to the Gardner Lions Club for providing our breakfast this morning. Let's see here. So each candidate's going to have an opportunity. We're going to start off. They're all going to have an opportunity to just give us a 2-minute introduction, who they are, why they're running for office, and that. Then we'll go into the questions. We're going to try something a little different today. Instead of going one race for 45 minutes and another race for 45 minutes, we're going to actually go back and forth. We even have a couple questions that I think will be answered by both sets of candidates. So we're going to do it a little different. We'll see how it works. As I said, some of the questions have been rejected because they're not suitable. We try to keep the questions so each candidate in that race can answer that question. So it's not a specific, Mr. Resman, what did we heard you did this 12 years ago, and no one else can answer the question. That's not what we're here for. We're here to hear how the candidates, we want you to compare the candidates, not grill the candidates one by one. That's pretty much it. Each question, and so the candidates know, each question you'll have approximately 90 seconds or 2 minutes depending on the complexity of the question. I will be timing you. I'll let you know when you have about 15 seconds to go so you can wrap up. We'll cut you off at that time just to be fair to each other. And then on most of the questions we will allow you to have like a 30-second rebuttal after everybody goes. So if both Mr. Roberts and Mr. Sutton, once you guys go, then you can have a 30-second rebuttal and then we'll stop and move on to the question for the next side. So any questions? Any questions? Any questions from the candidates? I encourage you to speak loud. The one thing the acoustics in here, that's one of the things we didn't think about was how the acoustics would work. So we want you to use your outside voice today. All right. If we're all set, I'm going to go ahead. We're going to start off with the Johnson County Sheriff race, and what we're going to do, we'll rotate through, and everybody will have an opportunity to go first, second, and third for the next series of questions. But we're going to go ahead and start off with Calvin Hayden.
You want to stand or sit?
Yeah, if you could stand, that'd be good. I think it'll project a little bit more.
Ladies and gentlemen, my name's Calvin Hayden. Tell you a little bit about myself. I was born 1/2 block away from here in the old Reese Hospital, so this is home. I was raised in Johnson County, educated in Johnson County, and educated in DeSoto. Graduated from DeSoto, went straight into the Army because my family believed in service first to country. After the Army, I went to work at Summit County Sheriff's Office in Breckenridge, Colorado. Did that for 2 years because I wanted to ski and be a cop in the mountains. Got to do that for a little while, got homesick, and got my dream job with Johnson County Sheriff's Office in 1981. As with everybody, I started in the jail, and I virtually got to work in every division in the place. I worked a couple of years undercover narcotics, buying drugs off the street, cold buys, back when we did that, during the cocaine wars and the Miami Vice cocaine time. So it was an exciting time for me, exciting and scary. Then I got to work in patrol for a few years, got promoted, went to the jail, came back to patrol as a sergeant, worked patrol for about 8 years as a sergeant. A couple of years, about 6 years as a sergeant on patrol. I got promoted to lieutenant, took over a mobile data project, and purchased, implemented, and made functional the first computers in the car. I've been a firearms instructor since 1984, and implemented the first 9mm that came to the sheriff's office. We did the purchasing. We did the implementation, the training, and made sure that they worked well. So I'm a gun guy, card-carrying member of the NRA, and a pro-Second Amendment guy. Some of my community service, I retired from the sheriff's office in 2008 because I wanted to be county commissioner.
15 seconds.
I spent 4 years as your county commissioner in this district. It was an honor to do so. Worked hard and got a lot of experience. So I'd like to be your next sheriff. I believe in service. And you'll see me at the grocery store and you tell me how you feel about things. Thank you.
Dennis Hammer.
Good morning. Thanks for being here. My name is Dennis Hammer. Moved to Johnson County in 1968 so that my father could go to work at the Johnson County Sheriff's Office. I started with the Sheriff's Office in 1985. Was eventually promoted to the rank of sergeant and then ended up as lieutenant. I've married, my wife 34 years, we have 2 grown children. I currently live in Olathe. I really look forward to being the next sheriff of Johnson County, to get the sheriff's office out there so people will actually see it and know what it's about and what we're doing. So I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Resman?
Thank everybody for showing up this morning. First and foremost, I am not a politician, I'm a law enforcement officer. After high school, I attended William Patterson University, and after 2 years, I entered the United States Army and I was stationed at Fort Leavenworth, United States Disciplinary Barracks, where I met my wife. And after serving in the Army, I went to work for the Federal Bureau of Prisons at the U.S. Penitentiary at Leavenworth, and after 3.5 years, I came to work for the Sheriff's Office in Johnson County. Like everyone else, I started in the jail, went to communications, patrol, and I spent 21 years in investigations. As part of the investigations, I became a member of the Metro Squad, and through the years, I rose to the rank of officer in charge during active Metro Squads, and I worked homicides just about in every city in Johnson County and in 5 cities in Missouri. As a result of being on the Metro Squad, I was appointed as a supervisor for the Johnson County Multi-Jurisdictional Officer-Involved Shooting Team, which is if an officer discharges a weapon, this team would be activated and we would investigate that shooting. Some of the things I came up with while I was in investigations was a crime scene unit. So if you see the black band running around, we started that in investigations in the 90s with 1 detective and a small car. And since then it has grown. It is now used throughout the county and metropolitan area. I also came up with the computer forensic unit within the investigations division. Both those units, the CSI unit and the computer forensic unit, when Sheriff Denny became sheriff, he moved those into the lab where they should have been all along, but nobody took the initiative to start those things. The last thing I came up with was the sexual predator unit, in which, if you ever watch Dateline, and we have trained detectives that sit in chat rooms and they wait to be approached by someone who wants to meet our young little girl for bad things, and then instead they would meet us. Since retiring from the Sheriff's Office, I've done Meals on Wheels, and I've also worked part-time at Shawnee Mission Park at the Visitor Center. And the reason why I'm running for sheriff is because I live in this community and I want to make sure it stays safe. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you. Mr. Sutton?
Thank you. Well, thank you for being here. My name is Bill Sutton. I am the state representative of the 43rd District and was elected as such in 2012. I was raised in Paola. I was born in the Dot, but we've recovered from that since then. Grew up in Paola, and we've spent the last 18 years here in Gardner, where we've made our home. And 2 of my children have never known any other home. So we have 2 graduates now. As of this year, we have 2 graduates from the Gardner High School, and another one is on his way. We'll keep working at it. He'll get there. I ran for the state representative position because there were things that needed to be done. I mean, the school finance formula was a broken and clunky machine. We had a number of initiatives that were heading in exactly the wrong direction for the state. During the last 4 years, some of those have been repaired. Some of them are still in the process of being repaired. And that's why I'm continuing to run for the state representative position. I've got work to do. I want to finish what I got up there to start. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Sutton. Mr. Roberts?
Hi, I'm Don Roberts, Bill's opponent, but I'd like to thank everybody for being here, and I'd like to thank the Lions Club for breakfast and the Chamber for sponsoring. But I'm currently the mayor of Edgerton. I've been mayor for 7 years. I'm the one that has negotiated LPKC and actually expanded that project to over $1 billion project. We've landed 7 companies out there, had about $800 million worth of investment in town. And soon, after Amazon opens up, we'll create 1,800 jobs. I chose to run for this office because, you know, much the same reason Bill just said. He ran in 2012. I don't think things are going right, and I don't think things are getting fixed. So I'm a guy that likes to get things done, and I want to get things done in Topeka because it's affecting the way we can operate our local communities, and it's really affecting our local citizens. And so we need to have someone up there that's proactive, that will speak the voice of the citizens, and will communicate with them. So I've been a resident of really the 43rd District my entire life. My wife and me married well, actually in Olathe, but lived in Old Edgerton since all but 2 years of my entire life. Our 3 kids have graduated from Gardner Edgerton High School. I've been a member of the Chamber of Commerce when I own businesses. I'm a member of the Southwest EDC. I was a volunteer firefighter for 17 years. I have never stopped being active in this community since I was a young child. And so both communities. So I worked 26 years for the city of Gardner, and total time now I've spent 15 years as an elected official in Edgerton. So anyhow, I look forward to talking to you afterwards. If you have any specific questions that you don't get answered today, I'll be around. I also have a booth over here, so if you want to stop by at any time, please do.
Thank you, Mr. Robbins. All right, we're going to go ahead and start. We're going to start with the sheriff's race, and we'll start our first question with Mr. Hayden. And each candidate, you'll have 2 minutes for this one, and we'll give you 30 seconds if you feel like you need after everybody goes through, okay? What are the most significant law enforcement issues our county is facing, and how do you hope to address and handle these matters if elected?
We've got a ton of issues that are significant right now. One of them is recruitment and retention. We've got to make sure that we keep the people we hire. We've got to hold our officers up in high esteem. Some of the other things we've got to look at, and we're going to do that through training. We're going to reach out to people. It's ridiculous. It takes 6 months to hire somebody. It's ridiculous. We have a 30-page application to get hired at the sheriff's office. We thoroughly vet these guys. We do it through computer. We do it through background checks. You know, we don't need them to do our work for us. And if they're lying, I don't need 30 pages of lying to tell me they're lying. So we need to condense that. We need to get our officers out there and make sure that they're seen in the public. These other 2 candidates, you don't know them. You haven't seen them. I've been on the street. I worked 26 years of shift work. It offends me that somebody calls me a politician because I'll take my on-view arrest against any of these guys. I spent 26 years working shift work. Okay? I spent 26 years in this community. So, buying undercover drugs. Drugs is another problem we've got. How many of you know that people have got trouble with substance abuse issues? We've got meth running nuts. We've got people with no teeth out here. We've got people stealing. You know, what are we doing about that? I don't care about a drug cartel in Mexico or what's coming across from Afghanistan in the poppy fields. I care what's going on down the street, down your block. We're not doing anything to address that. We need a drug squad. It needs to be active, and it needs to be working. That's the way we're going to attack this problem. I'm not saying we need to send everybody to prison, everybody to jail, but we got to get them in treatment. And that's the main crux of what I think we should do. I think we need to get out there. I think we need to be aggressive about it, and that's the way we're going to keep the peace.
Excellent. Thank you, sir. Mr. Hammer?
One of the big problems going on with all the government agencies is the budget. I think the budget needs to be grasped and go at an effective rate of what we need, not what we want. I've seen a lot of spending in my days that has really bothered me. At the end of the year, when everybody's coming to the end of their budget system, it's, well, let's spend all this money. We got to spend this money because if we don't spend it, we won't get it back next year. Okay? Somebody needs to step up and say, no, we're not going to spend it. We will turn it back. We're going to budget for it again next year. If we don't use it, fine, but we're going to budget again next year because we're probably going to need it. Another issue is mental health within the community. I want to work close with the DA's office, the Johnson County Mental Health, to find programs that we can get these people into as opposed to putting them in jail. I spent a lot of time in the jail, and that is, it's one of the toughest deals to deal with. You've got people that keep coming back for the same reasons. Get them in programs where they can get out and be productive in this society. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Resman?
I think the important issues for the sheriff's office is the budget and recruitment. If we don't have a proper budget and if we don't hire the right people, we're going to fail as law enforcement officers, and we are not going to be able to perform our duties. And as far as a 30-page form that you have to fill out, I want that person vetted to the max. We're not going to let anybody come in and slip through the cracks when we hire someone. They're going to be the most professional person we can hire, and if there's something in their background that deserves to be looked at and prevents them from being hired, we're going to look at it and we're going to prevent them from being hired. And if it takes 30 pages to do that, that's exactly what we're going to do. I have been on the Metro Squad, and I have arrested people, and I have seen cold-blooded killers and interviewed them during my time at the Metro Squad. So I have also have a lot of law enforcement experience when it comes to issues like that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. President. Go back to Mr. Hayden. Do you have anything else to add?
Yeah, I do.
30 seconds.
You know, the budget's a huge deal, but you got to have experience with budgets. And as a county commissioner, I had experience with $800 million budget. That's critical. Sheriff's Office, $80 million budget. You have to know how to manage, and you have to know how to have executive experience. That's all I've got to say.
Thank you. Mr. Hammer? 30 seconds.
While I was at the sheriff's office, I was involved in budgets. I know Calvin said that he wasn't involved in budgets when he was at the sheriff's office. I was, as a lieutenant and a sergeant, gathering the numbers, gathering the data, projecting what we were going to need the following year. I have budget experience within the sheriff's department. Thank you.
Mr. Resman, anything else to add? 30 seconds.
As far as the county budget, the Board of County Commissioners do not make the budget and they do not administer the budget. That is performed by a fiscal unit within the county that is vetted through the county manager, is presented to the Board of County Commissioners, and they're the ones that approve it. Once it's approved, it's returned back to the fiscal unit and it is there administered. So the county commissioners do not actually formulate or make the budget.
Thank you, Mr. Resman. All right, now we're going to move on. We're going to shift over to the 43rd District. We'll start with Mr. Sutton. First question, what's the most important issue facing Kansas at this point, and how do you plan to address it? You got 2 minutes.
Well, I think that's a pretty easy one. The most important issue facing Kansas, or at least certainly the most imminent, is going to be the school finance. We'll be going back to special session starting on the 23rd to deal with the most recent equity ruling from their, or opinion from the Kansas Supreme Court. So what's the most urgent? Oh, that's it. We'll be there the next week, or a week and a half. How is that going to be handled? Well, first off, let me assure you, the schools are not going to close. That there's a political game going on, and it irritates me that our children are being used as pawns in that game. When a decision comes out on Friday, the Friday afternoon before Memorial Day weekend, there is no sane person on earth who can say that that wasn't political. With 1 day of business to try to put it together before sine die, no, that was political. That was planned. And actually, that was pretty well done if you're a cynic looking at the politics of the game. No, this is political, and our children are being used, and that frustrates the heck out of me. On one side, you know, if the children weren't involved, this is the sort of thing I would love to say, call the bluff. 10 seconds. Oh, this is the most important issue of the day. Come on.
Right. I'll have plenty more opportunities to get there.
All right, I'll continue this a little bit later. With our children involved, we will solve the problem. We will get a plan back to the Supreme Court, and our schools will not close.
Thank you, Mr. Sutton. Mr. Roberts?
So I do agree with Bill that it's important for schools and to figure out what that's going to look like in the future, but I disagree that that's the number one issue facing Kansas. The number one issue to me is actually balancing the budget. And that, for me, is that legislators need to do their constitutional duty and balance the budget and quit giving it to the governor to do it for them. You know, it's their job, it's what they're elected to do, they just need to do their job. That will entail back to school finance, that'll go back to transportation, that'll go back to everything we do in the state of Kansas. But until we balance the budget, we're not going to have success in anything we do. So that's all I really have.
Okay. Mr. Sutton, you have anything else to add? 30 seconds.
In 30 seconds, I will give it a whirl. Kansas has a balanced budget amendment So technically, every budget is passed. What Mr. Roberts is referencing is the fact that we left $40 million on the table for the governor to select the reductions in his administrative departments on. Was that dereliction? Yes and no, to tell you the truth. We didn't have the votes. We didn't have the will as a body to reduce the spending ourselves on any individual programs.
Time.
Oh, you cut me off at that? Oh,
30 seconds.
okay.
All right, we're going, and, oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Roberts, yeah.
So, thanks for cutting me off.
He took part of your time, Mr. Roberts.
Did you start my time already?
No, I was using your time, yeah.
So here's my deal on really not getting the votes. So the legislators chose to leave office early this year so that they could come out and campaign. The truth is they have the ability to have a 90-day session. They could have stayed and worked on this. They could have hammered this out for another almost 20 days or so. So, it was a rush to try to make everybody think that we did our job in the shortest amount of time so we don't look bad from last year going way over time. But the truth is, we got to do our jobs, and it's not going to be easy, but it's a fight, and it's supposed to.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Roberts. All right, we're going to go back over to the sheriff's race. Next question, we're going to start with Mr. Hammer, okay, and then we'll go to Mr. Resman and Mr. Hayden last. What qualities, characteristics, and experience will you look for in an undersheriff, your second in command? And do you have someone in mind for, or a type of person in mind for this position? We'll give you 90 seconds.
The person I'm looking at as minor sheriff is, what I want is somebody that thinks like me, but isn't afraid to tell me, hey, that is a stupid mistake. I don't want any of my command staff to be afraid to tell me what you're looking at doing is a mistake. Don't do it. I want somebody that has a very broad knowledge of the department and knows what's going on from one end to the other.
Thank you. Mr. Resman.
Well, the person that I would look for would have to have leadership skills and have to have integrity and be like-minded like myself, and also to take opposite views sometimes of the way I'm thinking to ensure that I'm making the right decision. As far as naming a undersheriff, that will occur after the election. I have not decided on anything about that at all. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you. Mr. Hayden.
The person that I'm looking for undersheriff's inside the department. We're going to go inside because I want somebody that has global knowledge of the department. Not just investigations, not just detention, not just one small area of the department. I want them to have worked everywhere. I want them to have a number of years of shift work under their belt so they understand what the officers are going through and be able to relate to that. As far as, and I want somebody that's going to shoot square with me. You know, too many times we associate ourselves with people that really don't have good intentions. They want to be, they want the job to be about power or influence. That's not what I'm looking for. I'm looking for a servant. And I want a servant that's going to serve our citizens, that's going to work hard. As far as naming somebody, we really can't if we're going inside. None of us can. They're civil service positions. Those officers can't be involved in politics whatsoever. In fact, it's against state statute. You have to know that. So you can't really hang them out there. And plus, if I lose, what are these guys going to do with that person? That's why we have civil service. So that's the answer to that question. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hayden. We're not going to have a follow-up on that one. Okay? We're going to go over to the 43rd District. So we're going to go back. You both talked a lot about budgeting, and I probably have a half a dozen questions on budgeting. So I'm going to start with this, and I'll let you, we're going to give you a little extra time on this question. I'll let you kind of talk about budgeting as a whole from the state, your perspective in that. But one of the questions is Kansas has consistently missed its revenue projections over the past year, which many people feel is part of the problem. Why is that? Do you think there should be something done about that process? And how does that play a part in the overall budget scheme? And we'll start with, this will be Mr. Roberts this time.
So revenue projections are critical, and they do get missed from time to time. Kansas is the leading state in missing projections and also missing them by the furthest. You know, so you need to have realistic expectations. Kansas hasn't grown by 6% in maybe once in our history. 4% is too high. We usually grow around 1.5% average. You know, so using numbers of growth of 6% just isn't realistic. You know, so you need to have a conservative budget that you can utilize, or conservative budget numbers that you can utilize, so that you can say, this is how much income we have, so this is how much we can spend. And if you stay conservative with that, then you don't overspend. So that's part of our problem, is overspending still. But also, by missing revenues, it allows people to conceptually think that we have that money. Well, you know, they're trying to guess revenue every month, and out of the last 13 months, we hit the number once, I believe. And so, you know, whose fault is that? You know, it's really the guys that pull those numbers together and share it with the legislators. But by now, legislators should start realizing that those numbers have been wrong. The governor announced recently that he's going to look at a new plan, a new way of looking at this. But the truth is, you can't be deficit spending forever. You can't take all the money out of KDOT. I think funneling money all into the general fund to redistribute it just really hides money, and it hides it from you, the citizens. You know, in Edgerton, we've taken time since I've been mayor to streamline your water bill to stay in water, your wastewater bill to stay in wastewater, your general property taxes stay with things like roads and parks, and that way we can tell you that your dollar that came into this fund went to this fund, and that way it's as transparent as we can make it. And
30 seconds.
so it's just designing a system through policy that makes it clear where people can understand it, not just somebody sitting in Topeka, but everybody, because it's everybody's business, it's everybody's money. So.
Thank you, Mr. Roberts. You have 30 extra seconds on this question.
Excellent,
So
thank you.
go ahead and start now.
All right, well, first off, regarding the budget projections, Don's exactly right on that. That is a huge frustration for everyone. It's very, very difficult to structure a budget when the numbers that you're given are maybe not 100% accurate. That's a frustration felt all over Topeka. I serve on a number of budget committees, education budget being one that I co-chair, and then, or vice chair rather, and then the general government budget as well. And it is extremely frustrating when we can't pinpoint the numbers. Now, that being said, well, first off, Sean Sullivan, the budget director, is currently reviewing that process. He assures us that he's going to be able to be more close. I don't even know what more close means. We're off so far sometimes that more close could still be rather sad. But that's an ongoing frustration, and yes, it's something that we need to take into account when we're making our budget, that these revenue figures are fuzzy, and that's something we just have to understand. I do want to take exception, however, to a point. Funneling money to the SGF is hiding it. Now, you understand the budget process. That's the legislature's job. Money comes into the SGF. The most transparent way of getting it back out of there is through the appropriations process, the role of the legislature. I would counter that by saying what is not transparent is sending money directly to an agency to be spent, such as the form of KDOT, for example. They have guaranteed revenue streams from sales tax and gas tax and so on and so forth that goes directly to the Department of Transportation. That money all needs to come to SGF, so everyone across the state knows how much money that is, knows how much money is being appropriated for the various KDOT projects, and how the money is being used. That would make sweeps absolutely unnecessary.
30 seconds.
Oh, okay. I think I'm wrapping it up. I'm on time this time. That would make sweeping the funds from the bank of KDOT, as you read in the newspaper, absolutely unnecessary, because we would see where the money is and how much that money is at all times. Thank you.
Mr. Roberts, 30 seconds.
So, you know, you use economic trends to look at what a budget does, and then you model that to give your state budget. So that can be done with the KDOT money too. So when you pay your gas tax that goes to KDOT, then the state legislator can change that tax rate. And when they're overcharging it, instead of taking it to the state general fund and using it for whatever they want, they could lower that tax. They can do it. You know, they don't have to charge that much money. They don't have to hide where the money comes from. They can take that tax and lower it if they're getting too much money. And they can start charging taxes where they need to fund with it where there is a need.
Mr. Sutton, you have 30 seconds to say anything else.
I think he made my point, actually. If you can see the money, yes, you can make those decisions. If it's hiding in KDOT, where it's not visible to the public, you can't make those decisions. I agree 100%.
Thank you. All right, we're going to shift back over here to the sheriff's race. And actually, this question is going to be for all 5 candidates because I think it spans all 5 of you. We're going to start with Mr. Resman, we'll go to Mr. Hayden, and then we'll come back over to this. And there will not be a follow-up on it. We'll give you 1 minute on this question. What is your view on Second Amendment rights? Mr. Resman?
My view on Second Amendment rights is, first of all, I am a member of the NRA, and I believe that you have the right to defend yourself, your family, and your home. My wife also has a carry conceal license, so she can carry anytime she wants. As far as constitutional carry, I believe that the citizen has a right to carry a gun and defend themselves. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Resman. Mr. Hayden? No, we're going to go to the end. Mr. Hayden on this one.
You can.
He was excited. I know you're excited to answer that question there, Mr. Hammer.
He's on it. Again, I am a almost 30-year firearms instructor. I'm a member of the NRA. I believe concealed carry is your right. I believe in constitutional carry. I believe in standing your ground. That's a little more than saying I believe you have the right to defend your home. I said it before and I'll say it again. You know, my home is my castle. If you try to come in my house and do bad things, it's not going to be good for you. Okay, that you've entered the kill zone, as I call it. I've caught burglars at my house, arrested them, while they were trying to break into my house while I was working a midnight shift. So I know exactly firsthand what that's like. That's why I'm a big proponent. My wife's got concealed carry. My brother owns a gun shop. I am completely in. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hayden. Mr. Hammer, in 1 minute.
I as well am 100% for responsible people owning their guns. I have no problem whatsoever with it. I've grown up around guns my entire life, hunting, shooting at the range, running around at the sheriff's department ranges when I was a little kid. I am 100% behind it. Thank you.
Thank you. We're going to go to Mr. Sutton on this one.
Well, I think we're all going to be singing in unison and showing our NRA cards. But, of course I'm in favor of the Second Amendment. I'm in favor of the First Amendment, the Third Amendment, you name it. I support our Constitution. And this shouldn't ever even be an issue. Not only do I support the Second Amendment, of course, but I also voted for the constitutional carry that everyone's in favor of. Thank you. So, and we'll continue to stand for that. What I realize is that the Second Amendment is the enforcement arm for the entire Bill of Rights. And like the bumper sticker says, and this is no offense to you gentlemen, but when seconds count, the police are only minutes away. Brings to mind the reason that law-abiding citizens should be able to defend themselves. That's why it's in the Constitution. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Sutton. Mr. Roberts.
I agree with everybody. Second Amendment is important, and we shouldn't be limiting the rights, or constitutional rights to law-abiding citizens at all. And so, that goes throughout the Constitution, not just the Second Amendment, but I support the Second Amendment and I support the rights of citizens.
All right, so we're going to go back over to the sheriff's race here, and we're going to go to Mr. Hayden, I believe. Sheriff, you talked a little bit about budget, and I had several questions related to budget and finances within the sheriff's department, and also how they related to county finances. So, share with us your thoughts on the sheriff's department budget. What are some of the needs that you see now? Do you support tax increases to fund the sheriff's department budget? We'll leave it at that. We'll give you 2 minutes.
Well, let me give some of you an education about just exactly what the county commission did. For 6 months a year, we analyzed, every department in the county presents their budget. It's analyzed, it's dissected. We approve what money gets spent. The guy that does the budget at the Johnson County Sheriff's Office is a guy named Kent Brown. He does the budgeting. All we do as deputies is turn in facts and figures to him. He's the one that sets the budget, and then he hands you what you're going to spend for that year. That's the way it's done. As far as the Sheriff's Office budget, it's 10% of the county budget. So it's pretty cheap. I mean, if you think about what you get out of the Sheriff's Office, that's a pretty good bargain. Now, there are people going to tell you that it's 23%, 25% of the county budget. That's not true. Courts are lodged into that, or grouped into that, and also MedAct and some fire. So they're looking at the public safety as 23%. The sheriff's operating budget is about $80 million. It's about 10%. That's a pretty good deal. Now, there's areas we can be more efficient at. My idea is every officer that puts on a badge ought to be able to tell us where we're wasting money. And that's part of having a relationship with your officers and sitting down and going, look, I think we're wasting money here. I think we're wasting money there. You know, I always say if you're going to skin cats, you need to talk to the cat skinners. And that's what I intend to do. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hayden. Mr. Hammer?
One of the big issues has happened is we're getting a big hit on overtime, paying millions of dollars overtime at the end of the year because it ended up being more. I think it's time to look at the department, reevaluate where we are sending our people, bring them in, redistribute, and get the overtime down through hiring more people and filling positions that we need to fill as opposed to ones that we want to fill. Thank you.
Mr. Resman?
As far as the sheriff's budget, as sheriff, you do not have to be a budget expert. Nor will I have to be a person that has to work a module, have to be an expert in that field, or work a traffic accident and be an expert in that field. The sheriff's office has a fiscal unit headed by a CPA who has been on the job for about 12 years. When Sheriff Denny became sheriff, he brought this individual in, and he administers and plans the budget. He will also tell us where we are wasting money. He is the foremost person on the budget. He not only helps the sheriff's office, but he also helps other agencies within Johnson County to manage their budget. As far as tax increases, I don't believe that we should tax the citizens of Johnson County to death to provide our services. And a lot of the services that we provide to local jurisdictions is included in our budget and are not passed on to local jurisdictions like Gardner. Gardner gets dispatching that doesn't cost them any money. They use a lab. That's not charged to them on individual cases. And also during autopsies, they're not charged per autopsy. So the entire budget for the sheriff's office is included in the entire county, so each city is not charged anything extra. If alone, just on the medical expenses out of the jail for inmates that are housed by the city of Gardner, their budget would increase nearly $3 million if the city alone had to pay for those inmates and their health care.
30 seconds.
So the entire county does pay into the budget, so it's spread out across the county and everyone pays their fair share.
Mr. Hayden, do you have anything to add?
Oh, yeah. You do pay for all those services. You know, to say that you don't pay for dispatch, or you don't pay for a crime lab, or you don't pay for these things, you pay for those things. Okay? You pay for those with the taxes that you pay every day. So understand, you're paying for these services, and I want you to get good services. You know, to say that we're going to charge you extra for communications, or we're going to charge you more for extra patrol, that's baloney. You pay for them in your taxes. So keep that in mind. Thank you.
Mr. Hammer, do you have anything to add? Good. Mr. Resman, do you have anything to add? 30 seconds.
Well, I can tell you that the Board of County Commissioners does want the Sheriff's Office to charge for those services. And I don't believe that we should do anything like that because it is already in the budget and the entire county pays for those services. So you're not paying individually for those services. But if it was up to the Board of County Commissioners, they would like us to individually charge cities for those services.
Thank you. All right, we're going to shift over to the 43rd District. We're on the fourth question, so we'll go to Mr. Roberts to start here. Governor Brownback recently called a special session for later in June. What do you believe should happen during this special session, and what do you think actually will happen? You have 90 seconds.
Yeah, I don't know anybody that can outguess what the legislators are gonna do, but, and I only know that the legislators can tell you officially what they're gonna do. It's gonna be a hard-fought battle. You know, honestly, the courts have said it's unconstitutional, or at least 1% of it's unconstitutional. You know, it's about evening up, truing up the money across districts, across schools. You know, I believe somehow they'll even that up. Is it, you know, do they pay the additional 40 million? Do they, I don't know that, but they'll true up that money somehow, and schools will stay open. So, that's a guess by anybody's imagination today, but, it'll be interesting to see what the incumbents think.
Thank you. Mr. Sutton, 90 seconds.
Well, I'm afraid the incumbent's only slightly more qualified to predict what's going to happen in the legislature. There are 125 people involved, and then 40 on the lesser house over there. So it could be a. Sorry, I was poking at Molly Gardner, Senator Gardner there. No, Don's right. We will work something out. The easy answer, the easiest answer, the one that the court actually wants to have happen, is that $40 million will be removed from Johnson County schools so that, no, mark this, not so that it goes to the classroom in other schools, but so that mill levy rates in Wichita can go down. Remember how I said it's not about the kids are being put in the middle of this, but this is not about the children. This is about the money. Always. It's always about the money. Now, that's the easiest one. That's not going to happen, all right? The Johnson County delegation is very firm that we are not going to be taking money out of our schools to lower somebody else's mill levy. Now, how is it going to work? I can't answer that yet. I don't know the answer, but I can assure you that I will be making sure with my 1 out of 125 votes that we are not taking money out of the Johnson County schools, out of the Gardner School District, in order to lower property values in Wichita.
Thank you, Mr. Sutton. Mr. Roberts, do you have anything to add? 30
Yeah.
seconds.
Yeah, I can do this real quick, but, you know, the part that really surprises me about this is that the legislators knew this was coming, and they could have fixed this in the regular session, or they could have at least debated it, but chose not to. So, you know, it wasn't a big surprise this was going to happen. It may have been a late notice, but they knew it was coming. So, you know, they should have talked about it. They should have tried to figure out an answer prior to going back to the special session.
Mr. Sutton, you got 30 seconds.
Thank you. Responding to a court decision before a court decision is handed down, that makes no sense. That could not be done. Yes, we knew they were going to make a decision, absolutely. We knew it was going to come out against us. What form would it take? We don't have any idea. We don't know that. And so there's no way to form a plan ahead of time. That makes no sense.
Thank you, Mr. Sutton. All right, we're going to shift back over to the Johnson County Sheriff race. I believe we're on question number 5, so Mr. Hammer, you'll go first. In November, the county will vote on a sales tax increase to fund a new county courthouse and coroner's facility. Do you support this ballot initiative, and why or why not? You'll have 90 seconds.
I do see the need to upgrade the courthouse. It is an old, antiquated building, hard to get around in. Coroner's office, we absolutely need that, and to be in control of the autopsies instead of farming them out to private companies up in Kansas City. I would personally like to see them bring something in together and involve the current courthouse in the plan somehow. I know they say it's expensive and everything, but I mean, the county just went out in 2011 or whatever and saved an old building in Overland Park and is spending millions of dollars on that because it was a iconic building. Well, the courthouse is somewhat iconic, and I think it needs to be preserved in some way. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hammer. Mr. Resman, you have 90 seconds.
Well, bringing in a new courthouse is going to be expensive. My personal opinion really doesn't matter. What really matters is how you people vote. If you vote that we get one, then that's fine. If you vote that we don't get a new courthouse, well, we're just gonna have to live with what we have and work with it. But it's gonna be on the ballot, and it's gonna be up to the citizens of Johnson County if they wanna spend that money to build a new courthouse. So my opinion really doesn't matter. I'll have to live with that decision, however the citizens make it.
Thank you, Mr. Resman. Mr. Hayden, you have 90 seconds.
You know, I can agree with both of these guys. It's exactly where it should be. It's a huge amount of money. 200 million is a huge amount of money for Johnson County taxpayers. They've agonized and kicked this can down the road for years and years and years. I'll tell you, I've worked in that building, been in the basement, been upstairs. The building needs a lot of work. Now, they have said that it'll cost more to refurbish that building than it will to build a new one. I don't know that I believe that, but that's what they're telling us. I know there was asbestos abatement in that building, there's old boilers in that building, there's cracks, huge cracks, water comes in. You know, the courthouse is a rough deal. I personally, I'm torn about it because my wife works there. You know, I think it doesn't represent Johnson County well. I think we need to have a facility that looks like Johnson County.
30 seconds.
I think it's in front of the voters where it should be. The Corners facility, essential, absolutely essential. It's going to be a regional facility that's going to help us with all kinds of hantaviruses, and it'll be pressurized to do the right DNA, and it'll be a big asset to the county.
Thank you. I'm not going to have a follow-up on that question. We're going to go over here. So we're going to start with Mr. Sutton on this one. And this is going to be another one where I'm going to give you a little extra time. We'll go to probably 2.5 minutes. And it's a broad-based question. There are a lot of questions about education in general, and then some very specific. So in regard to education funding, do you believe that voters in each district should be able to raise unlimited funds locally beyond what the state provides, or returns to the districts? And I'll let you broaden that to overall education if you'd like to, and education funding in general.
Sure. Well, that's an interesting question to bring up while we're discussing the equity battle in the Supreme Court. Do I believe that it should be unlimited? Here's the deal. Constitutionally, there should be obviously adequate and equitable funding for education across the state. Absolutely. Key to that is education. When we get into the peripheral, some of the vocational technical training, some of those athletic stadiums and basketball courts and that sort of thing, I'm not sure that falls under the same heading. So what I would propose, and this is, you know, if I were suddenly 63 representatives, something that I would propose looking at would be education funding as a base, but allowing local communities, you know, if Gardner Edgerton wanted to put a dome over the high school football stadium, and they wanted to do it with local money, I don't see a problem with that. I do see a problem with the state paying 50% of it. I think that, you know, asking the folks in Garden City to pay for a dome in Gardner Edgerton, that's a little bit excessive perhaps. But I think as far as local option is concerned, for the peripheral developments around education, I see no problem with that whatsoever. However, that being said, for the educational levels, no, we can't have gold-plated iPads going to one school and the other one's using chalkboards and chalk. We can't do that.
30 seconds.
All right. Well, I think I've summed it up pretty well there. For educational purposes, no. In answer to the question, for peripherals, yes. There we go. I summed it up quite shortly.
Thank you, Mr. Roberts.
So I think Bill's right. Constitutionally, we have to have equity across school districts, across schools. So I mean, if Gardner Edgerton starts funding schools at $20,000 a student, which would be a tremendous increase. We would have to do that across the state. That would be our constitutional duty. But I do believe that local control should dictate where money is spent, and how it's spent. So I also think it's really important from my perspective that we have extracurricular activities. It bodes well for education. It does play a role in the child's education. And the statistics tell you that kids that participate in extracurricular activities have a much higher percentage of graduation and productivity later in life. So it is part of your education. So should the state share in that? Yes, they should. Should the local control dictate the majority of that? Yes, they should.
Thank you, Mr. Roberts. Mr. Sutton, we'll give you 30 seconds if you have anything to follow up on this one.
I was just going to ask for clarification on that. Was that yes on the education part and no? I just wanted to clarify where you were going with that. Not arguing. I think we're probably on the same page.
Yeah. So
All right, that's your 30 seconds. I'm going to
All
go to
right,
Mr.
yeah,
Roberts now.
So
You can defer question.
to answer Bill's question is I consider extracurricular activities part of an education. So I encourage people to get involved not just in going to school and reading a book, but get involved in extracurricular activities that help them graduate and become productive citizens. So it's kind of yes on both. I mean, you can't do the education piece without doing it across the state, but the extracurricular piece should be part of that education.
Thank you. All right, we're going to move across back over to the sheriff's. I just want to do a quick little check-in, just so everybody knows it's about 9 o'clock now. We're probably going to go to about 9:30, okay? So people in here have the ability to set up. Can everybody in the back hear? Are they projecting loud enough? Yes? Yes. Okay. Project a little louder if you can. I see some people saying yes and a couple people going no. So, all right, we're going to go over to the sheriff's race. We're on question number 6. We're going to go to Mr. Resman to start here. As sheriff, tell us about some ways you see the department working with city police departments. What currently works well, and what do you think could be improved? We'll give you 1 minute.
Working with city departments is essential. The Sheriff's Office already provides dispatching services for 12 cities. They have a crime lab that provides services throughout the county and in the regional area. They also provide services for CSI, the crime scene unit, and the Sheriff's Office investigations units can be called upon for any reason to go anywhere within the county to assist any agency. As far as the future, we just have to wait and see when they get elected sheriff to examine what we're doing right and what we're doing wrong, and then make improvements after that.
Thank you, Mr. Resman. Mr. Hayden, you have 1 minute.
You know, there's a lot of ways that I think we can do a lot better job. John's an officer-involved shooting team. The Sheriff's Office doesn't participate in that. The Sheriff's made a decision that he doesn't want to participate. We investigate things better. I don't agree with that. The officer-involved shooting team is the best of the best officers countywide. Those guys are the best you could possibly get. Now, there needs to be oversight. There needs to be independent oversight. But that needs to come back, and if I'm sheriff, that's the first thing we're going to do. Then it's a matter of having a relationship with chiefs. You know, you have to sit down with these guys and understand where they're coming from. If you haven't been in the political world, there's over 100 different governing boards in Johnson County.
15 seconds.
You know, you have to be aware of those. You have to know where the landmines are, who you're going to offend, and who you're going to help. We're going to come from here lifting these officers up, and that's what we're going to do.
Thank you, Mr. Hayden. Mr. Hammer, you got a minute?
Cops are egotistical, usually. I mean, it just comes with it. And the higher they get, the more egotistical they get. Somebody's got to get in there that's willing to go over to the chiefs of police and mend the bridges that egos have killed over the years. You need to work together towards the same goals. One of the things that I see that has been missed for a long time is training within the departments for mass incidents. There is not a whole lot of training. I mean, there may be some tabletop discussions. I'm talking about getting together and actually going over to one of the schools and attacking it, and to bring back Oak Park Mall. If something happens there, everybody's going to be going. It's not when it's going to happen, or if, it's when. And something like that's bound to happen. And if we're not prepared for it, it's going to be very ugly. Thank you.
Okay, we're going to move across to 43rd District. Okay, the next question, we were on number 6, so it would be Mr. Roberts going first. Polls consistently show from small business owners that government regulations are one of the biggest issues to business growth. How do you think we overhaul regulations? And I think that several of the people who sent this question in from the business side suggested that we talk about it a lot, but we don't see a lot of it happening. And they wanted specifically 1 or 2 regulations that you personally would support for overhauling if you were elected. We'll start with Mr. Roberts. We'll give you 90 seconds.
So, we want to encourage business, and regulation is definitely a damaging part. Yes, Kansas plays a big role in this, but honestly, the biggest regulation I see that affects business today is actually the EPA and the regulations they're putting out that is causing increases to our Kansas power and light bills that went up over almost 40% in the last few years. That is a major thing. We need to fight back, and we need to keep control at state level. And like Phil about the local level, local control should dictate what happens at a local level, but the state needs to do a bigger pushback on the federal government, and we need to take care of our future here in Kansas. So I would recommend that we fight a lot harder against a lot of the EPA regulations. We'd also limit a lot of the small business regulations that cost businesses, make it almost impossible anymore to start a small business, and we have a lot of that in Kansas too. So it's just a step-by-step process. It takes time, and there's a lot of it. It's taken years to get where we're at. It'll take years to get back out of that, but we just need to put some more common sense back into those regulations and move forward.
Thank you, Mr. Roberts. Mr. Sutton, you got 90 seconds.
I agree, 100%. In fact, when I'm not doing budget committees, my other committee assignment is the Energy and Environment Committee, and that's where I've spent the last 4 years. And 3 of those years were spent fighting the renewable portfolio standard. That was one self-inflicted standard that Kansas had done upon itself that was causing our utility rates to climb up and up and up. The second that we spent a great deal, in fact, it was 3.5 years, because then the Supreme Court put an injunction on it, was the Clean Power Plan. That one was EPA. That one came down against anyone's wishes, as near as I can tell. We were delaying and stalling implementation of it, hoping for a positive response in the courts. We got that injunction. We got that just the last decision before Antonin Scalia died.
30 seconds.
But that was bittersweet. But we did get that injunction. I'm hoping that it stands. Otherwise, we're going to be dealing with some very, very serious increases to our utility bills. But yeah, the Clean Power Plan would be one that I would stop immediately if I had the federal gavel, I guess, is what would be required there.
Mr. Roberts, do you have anything to add for 30 seconds?
No, I don't.
Okay. All right.
I'd like to rebut myself, please.
Would you like to rebut yourself? I disagree with everything I said right there. All right. We're going to move back over to the sheriff's race here. We're going to start with Mr. Hayden. What types of things do you have in mind to involve the community in policing, and how and would it help reduce the crime rate?
Well, that's one of the things
Sorry, you have 90 seconds on
near
this.
and dear to my heart. I've been on tons of boards and tons of, the water board down here with Alan. I've been on zoning boards. I've been on planning boards. I think when we do promotions, we need to look into that. That's one of the questions that's not asked, is what have you done for your community? A lot of guys get so tied up with working and doing the police work, and don't get me wrong, it's tough. But I think we need to have guys that, what are you doing for your community? What are you helping? That should be part of our process, because I want good guys, and I want guys that are involved in things. I think we need to reach out a lot more. Some of the things we can be doing. There should be officers here walking around. I'd like to see our officers walking the streets, doing things in concert with Gardner PD, doing things with Rotary, with Lions Club. Those things are huge. We need to be involved in those activities, and I think we need to promote it for our officers. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hayden. Mr. Hammer, you have 90 seconds.
I would agree, getting out is very important for the sheriff's office. I've been surprised on how many people, as I've been out campaigning and talking to people, people that don't realize that there's a Johnson County Sheriff's Office. They don't realize, well, I'd love to vote for you, but I can't. Well, why not? I live in Overland Park. I mean, they just don't understand the department. One of the easiest things I see, and I will get guys to do, during the school year, go have lunch you gotta eat somewhere, go have your lunch at the elementary school. And when you're done eating, go out and throw a game of kickball. Some of the most fond memories I have of my kids growing up with them was going to school before I went into, I'd have to go to work at 4 o'clock. I'd go get on my uniform, have to go early. I'd go up and have lunch with them. Today, 30 years later, those kids are still saying, I remember when you used to come play kickball with me. It made an impact on them. I think getting people to see that there is a sheriff's department, what we do, and we are friendly guys. We're not the cops that everybody wants to hate. I mean, we need to get that and project ourselves out there. Thank you.
Mr. Resman, you have 90 seconds.
Well, the demographics of Johnson County is changing, and you can see it every day. I think the sheriff's office should get out and meet these people and meet the organizations they have formed. We should extend a hand of friendship to them so that we can get into their communities so that we can help us fight crime. I think the Citizens Academy the sheriff's office offers an excellent opportunity for these organizations and citizens of Johnson County to come in and see exactly what the sheriff's office is about. When I went to patrol back a long time ago, one of the first things I was told was, if you want to know what's going on in the rural area, if you see a farmer, you stop and talk to him, because he sees cars drive by every day, and he knows what's going on in his area. So I think getting out and talking to people is the most important thing that the sheriff's office can do, and we need to extend a hand to these people that are moving into our communities, because they're going to be here, and we need to work with them, and they need to assist us in fighting crime.
Thank you, Mr. Resman. Okay, we're going to go over to the 43rd District now. Question number 7, I believe we're starting with Mr. Sutton here. A couple of questions, and I'm going to paraphrase a little bit here because it's a long, lengthy question. In regards to funding, budget, what is your stance on the mortgage tax deduction, child care tax credit, and what people know or are saying is the LLC loophole? And do you think something needs to be fixed with any of those 3? We'll give you 90 seconds.
All right, well, the big elephant in the room is, of course, the LLC loophole. And do I think, the other 2, first off, those are income tax deductions. As we progress on the plan is to reduce income tax to 0 in Kansas, those other 2 disappear as far as priorities. When you pay 0 income tax, there you go. So you don't have to worry about that part. Now, when we get to the LLC, that's an interesting topic because it's gotten press in all kinds of different directions. One thing to understand on this is that 92.5% of all of the LLC filings are small businesses. All right, that's $75,000 revenue or less per year. All right, so 92.5% are small businesses like we have right here in our community. Now, 7.5, they might be getting over on us. That is a valid issue for those 7.5% that are actually very large companies that are escaping paying any income taxes.
20 seconds.
Something perhaps can be done in that regard as far as setting some sort of a threshold because the whole plan, the whole idea of the LLC loophole was to protect small businesses, to grow small businesses, to provide the vast majority of the jobs in the state. That was the goal. We're achieving that goal, but you're right, 7.5% are getting by, and maybe some threshold needs to be calculated into that. Thank you.
Mr. Roberts.
So the mortgage tax here in Johnson County, which includes the 43rd District, Johnson County as a whole caused our taxes to go up $11 to $15 million. So now every time, it used to be that there was a plan from, I don't know, over 60 years ago, that number hasn't changed since the beginning, that funded every time somebody bought a house, and those people that bought the house, the people that caused the need for the mortgage tax, paid that tax when they bought the house. Now we all pay it. So every time anybody in Ola Parks or Leawood or everywhere else, that is spread amongst us all. You know, personally, I don't want to pay anybody else's taxes. I don't think it's right. We shouldn't be doing it. You know, the system that used to worked fine. I don't see the benefit, you know, other than it just raised our taxes. It worked fine before. There was no reason to go after it. The LLC tax, or the LLC loopholes they like to call it right now, I am a firm believer that somebody that owns a business, whether it be a lawyer making whatever, hundreds of thousands of dollars a year, Bill Self with an LLC making over $2 million a year, I am a firm believer that we all pay taxes. I don't think, Bill Self hasn't hired anybody. He's getting a heck of a tax credit. You know, his LLC employs him. You
20
know,
seconds.
so, you know, the attorney, his secretary is paying taxes. You know, we've caused the problem that 90-year-olds have to pay taxes now in Kansas because they don't get the deductions they used to. They're not making any money, but we're tearing up our senior citizens through our tax policies.
Time. Mr. Sutton, do you have anything to add?
Nope.
No? Okay. I'm going to shift back over there. So we're going to Mr. Hammer first. Mr. Hammer, we're going to give you 60 seconds. If elected, what would you do in the first year on the job?
First year on the job, first 6 months or so, stand back and take a strong look at it. I've been, about 3 years, I've been out of the department. I have a pretty good idea of what's going on still, stayed in touch with some people. But stand back and look at it. Where do I need to move people so that I can avoid officers working 12-hour days a week, every day that they get called in for overtime? Where can I move some people and readjust them so that I can quickly take care of some of the overtime woes? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hammer. Mr. Resman?
Well, the first thing I plan on doing is visiting each division and introducing myself to the officers that work in that division, and make sure that they understand that I am approachable and that I have an open door policy. And I also need to make them aware that I cannot do the job as sheriff without their help. And I plan to assist them in any way I can to ensure that they can do their job properly and they can advance through the ranks.
Thank you, Mr. Resman. Mr. Hayden, you've got 1 minute.
First thing I'm going to do is build a team. On August 3rd, I'm going to approach Frank Denny after we win the primary, and I'm going to sit down and start interviewing all of our officers. I want to talk to them. I want to review their personnel files. I want to get to know them. I want to know their families, and I want to build a relationship with each and every officer on that department. That gives me about 4 months to do that. I think we can do that. And then we're going to build a team, and they're going to understand that they are an integral part of that team. Then the next thing I'm going to do is take the organizational chart and I'm going to flip it upside down. And I want those officers that are the frontline officers who are the cutting edge of the sword to know they are highly valued. We are all there to support them. And the weight of this organization falls on these shoulders, and that's where it belongs. I want those guys to understand that they're valued, that they're wonderful representatives of our department. I want them involved in their community, and I want them to be empowered. To know when they go out and they represent you as citizens and they serve you as citizens, that they're going to fall back on solid ground. Thank you.
Okay, we're going to shift over here to the 43rd District. I believe it would be Mr. Roberts up first here. What can the state do, or you in your role, I suppose, to create and promote economic vitality for business in Southwest Johnson County? You get 1 minute.
So, you know, in Edgerton, I mean, we've created a lot of economic vitality in the last, few years or since I've been mayor. But for me, it's about being honest with people. You know, we approach companies all the time, and we sit down. Our first meeting is to figure out whether this will work or not work. If it's going to work, then we start building a partnership to fix the problems and move forward. So, it's about building partnerships. It's about understanding both sides. The business owners are experts in their area. They know what works. They know what doesn't work. The cities are experts in what we do. We're experts, or we should be experts in our communities. So what works for us and what doesn't work for us. So really, it's about building partnerships and and fixing the problems as you move forward.
Thank you, Mr. Roberts. Mr. Sutton, you have a minute?
1 minute?
Yep, 1 minute.
All right, very good. Well, there's no reason that businesses wouldn't be attracted to southwest Johnson County. We have an airport, we have an intermodal, we have a major highway for transportation. We have everything but a deep water harbor. And I'm working with the folks in Catoosa. We're gonna get that straightened out. But not really. I'm not actually working on a deep water harbor. All right, but one of the things that we need to continue to do is to promote ourselves. I know I've been involved with the senator in discussions to bring companies to Kansas. And you know, more than anything else, what they loved about Kansas was the freedom. First off, they love the transportation, yeah, in our area.
15 seconds.
But they love the freedom that our state laws have provided for businesses to develop. That was something that universally they were saying, well, that's huge. Our state limits us here and limits us here and limits us here. Thank you. So I think we're doing a fine job, and we need to continue to get that message out.
Time. Thank you, Mr.
So I agree with
Take it,
Bill.
Mr. Roberts, you'd like to 30-second rebuttal. All right, I'll give each of you a 30-second rebuttal here.
So promoting is a big part of what we do. I mean, we do it in Edgerton. The state used to do it a lot better than they do now. They have closed almost all of their Department of Commerce's out-of-state sites. They've limited their staff. So we're not promoting anymore. The results of this will be seen in the next 5 years that we're not out trying to attract businesses. And so, we're not doing what we're supposed to be doing. Have you seen the results of that yet? No. I've seen the results because we try to get business all the time, and we have less and less business coming through the Department of Commerce.
Time. Mr. Sutton.
I second that. I second that 100%. The Department of Commerce is something that has been a little bit of a frustration. We have a new secretary in there now, and I'm told that he's more energetic. I'm looking forward to working with him more closely and more energetically than has gone on in the past. But I agree 100% that Commerce has not been aggressive in bringing businesses to Kansas. I'm hoping that's changing with the new secretary.
Thank you. All right, gentlemen, we're about 9:20, we're going to move to closing now. And it's going to be a combination of questions and also you just telling us a little bit about you. We're going to give, in both races, we'll give everybody 2 minutes, okay? And some of these were general questions of people that asked why you're the most qualified for your role, why you want to fill this role, what you plan to do, what you might do, what's something about you that voters might not know that you want them to know, all right? So we're going to start, I believe, with Mr. Resman, and we'll go through the sheriffs, and then we'll come over here, and then we'll wrap up. So, Mr. Resman, you got 2 minutes.
Well, the reason why I believe I'm the best candidate for sheriff is that when I became a part of the Metro Squad and moved up to officer in charge of active Metro Squads, that selection was made by the Kansas City Metropolitan Chiefs of Police on both sides of the state line. So that kind of tells me that they know my leadership skills and my managerial skills. When I became a member of the officer-involved shooting team, that selection was made by the Johnson County Chiefs Association. Again, they must have recognized my leadership skills. I believe that I will be the best sheriff that can possibly be, and I will provide the best public safety that is possible.
Thank you, Mr. Resman. Mr. Hayden, you have 2 minutes.
You're going to hear from my opponents, I don't want to call them opponents, but my guys that are running also, that they will. Well, you're going to hear from me, I have. Okay? I have gone into houses and taken out murderers. I have bought drugs on the street. I have been a county commissioner. I have run an $800 million budget. But it's more than that. It's about community. And I first stepped in this building when I was 10 years old as a 4-H member to sell brownies. And got a blue ribbon, and I thought that was the coolest thing in the world. My roots are here. My friends are here. You'll look at who we associate with. Okay? You have to look at the intent of who you associate with. Am I associating with someone who wants to influence the sheriff's department because they think it's a cool thing to do, or it gives them some sense of power? No. I associate with people that are servants, that want to serve this community. Many guys, Alan, Bill Gay, Holly back here on the fire department. These guys are local heroes. These are my friends. These are the people I associate with. They're going to make a difference in this community. They're not out to manipulate it and make themselves look cool. They're out here to serve this community, and that's what I'm going to do. I've got a record of it. I live in this community, and I'm going to give you 110%. I've done it, and I'll continue to do it. I'm a known commodity. Thank you.
Mr. Hammer, I'll ask everybody, just make sure you project.
Okay.
I know we're getting towards the end, but you people, there's a little background noise, so you have 2 minutes.
Growing up in the sheriff's department with my dad working there, it's very dear to my heart. And when I've always thought about running for sheriff, when I'm sheriff, I'll do this, I'll do this. It's not about my ego. I can care less about, I don't ever want to be, I hate being up here in front of everybody today. I don't like the limelight and attention. But when my phone started ringing after Sheriff Denning announced that he wasn't going to resign, and I was getting calls from officers within the department, officers outside the department, attorneys that I know, I realized, you know what, this is my calling. This is what I need to go do. No, I haven't been a county commissioner. Nope, never have. But I'm set in the right ways. I want to do what is good for the citizens of Johnson County, what's good for the visitors that come, your children, and I just appreciate everybody taking time looking at us and making who you think is the best choice. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hammer. All right, we're going to go over to this side. I believe we're on question number 9, so we're going to start with Mr. Sutton. Same thing. You can tell us, you got 2 minutes. Tell us why you're the most qualified, what you plan to do, if there's anything you want voters to know that you haven't had an opportunity to talk about.
All right, well, first off, I do want to thank you all for your patience. Normally when we sit through an hour and a half of budget discussions, there's eyes rolling back in people's heads and there's snores coming out of the back of the room. So I congratulate you on your ability to stay with it. And one thing I want to mention here, though, is that I thought for a moment I was running for federal office when this started, because I'm sitting here at a table with guys talking about, buying drugs off the street and spending a lot of time in jail. That sounded like a federal office sort of race. No, but I appreciate you guys being here. That's fantastic. Why am I the most qualified for the job? As the vice chair of the Education Budget Committee, while we have the education funding formula coming up as the issue of the special session, the issue of next session, that's not a position you get as a freshman. That's not something that, nothing against you. You don't get in that sort of a position as a freshman. I will be front and center in that discussion, so Gardner and Edgerton will be strongly represented at the table while we're making the school funding formula. And for that, I ask for your vote. Thank you.
Mr. Roberts, you have 2 minutes as well.
So, I guess in my case, I didn't run because I'm after money or power. That's not my game. I made $960 last year as mayor, so I'm not here for greed. I'm running because I care about what happens for my kids and my grandkids. And so I care what the people think. I want to represent the people. I don't want to go up there, and I'm not planning on going up there, and I haven't asked for the support of Gardner Edgerton Republican Party, the Kansas Republican Party. I haven't asked for any of their support because I want to go up there and do right by you, the citizens. I am going to Topeka so we can represent you in your best interest, and I want to hear from you. I will be active in the community. I'm out and about. I welcome conversation all the time. As mayor, I thought I became a celebrity when I had to sit in Walmart grocery shopping for an hour while my wife did it. But I think it's my job to listen to the citizens. I may not agree with you, but I think it's my job. And I think it will be my job when I go to Topeka too. So I would appreciate your vote August 2nd. And, you know, that will decide this vote. This will decide this election. And I would really appreciate you coming out to vote. If you want to stop by, we'll get you registered for mail ballots, and you don't even have to leave your house. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Roberts. Can we give a big round of applause for all the candidates?